Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to Nunez Community College Culinary Arts Department. I'm Chef Anastasia Joyner. I'm an instructor here at Nunez's Culinary Arts and Culinary Entrepreneurship programs. I have over 30 years of experience in the hospitality industry, and I am classically trained through the Culinary Institute of America's bachelor program. I am also twice a recipient of the Best Chef of Louisiana Award through the American Culinary Federation New Orleans chapter. Today, we are blessed with a donation from the Franklin family. Dr. Franklin's family has gifted us a young pig that was felled on their hunting grounds. This is a completely wild animal, which you might want to know, cannot be legally served in a restaurant without special dispensation. Today, we will be demonstrating a classic hog-style fabrication using only hand tools, and I will be using a handsaw, as well as some classic chef knives that you would normally find in a chef's kit. Okay, might not need them all, but it's better to have them out and not need them than need them and have to go fish them. All right. This is more easily accomplished with younger animals because they do carry a higher amount of cartilage than hardened bone. As this is a first in our rebuilt building here at Nunez, our benefactors endeavored to make our job easy. So they have removed the entrails, as well as the head, the skin, and the feet, otherwise known as trotters. All right? But that's okay. We're not going to let that get in our way. Okay, traditionally a piglet this small is not fabricated. It is generally roasted or smoked whole, but we're going to have some fun anyway. Okay. Additionally, my students have set up a sous vide off to the side that we will be fabricating the tenderloin, and it will be rushed to the kitchen to be vacuum sealed, and that tenderloin will be placed in the sous vide to cook while we're completing our process so that we can all have a taste at the end. So let's begin. All right. So first, normally a hog would be split down the spine to create two halves of a carcass. On each half of the carcass, you would find 5 primals. Primals are the cuts that are first made to create smaller, more manageable sections of muscular in any animal protein. But today, we're going to keep our 2 halves whole, and we're going to work this for the 5 primals as they are. All right? So the first goal that I have is to get to the loin section. That is from right behind the shoulder blade to right in front of the back leg. All right? And the back side of the animal. That's our loin. On the bottom side of that loin, right? All of this area would be considered our belly. And this is the meat where you would find your bacon. All right? Back here we have the fresh ham. It's just the rump and the back leg, and this is often cured. And we usually eat them very happily around Easter, right? Down here at the head, we have 2 sections. We first come in above here, and we pull out the Boston butt. This is one that I make sure to highlight when I'm teaching my students the primal cuts of our pigs, because your Boston butt is where you think of as a shoulder. And then right below it, we have the shoulder. Okay? So rather than the Boston butt coming from the rear end of the animal, it's up at the shoulder. Below the shoulder is the shoulder. Then we have loin, belly, and fresh ham. Okay? So to get to my loin section, I want to come in behind the shoulder blade. I don't want to need to worry about that. All right? Classic cuts would be further up, and it would include some of the shoulder blade, but because I'm using hand tools, I'm going to go a little further back. So that will mean that I'm going to push for the tip of the 4th rib down here and the top of the 6th rib up here and create a cut that will come right behind that blade bone. Okay? So using my knife, I'm going to go ahead and split this so that I can see a little easier. Get through the breastbone so that I can reach in. It's not so hard for me because I've got small hands, except for messing with the saw. That is a little hard for my little bitty hands. Okay, so now I can make sure that my area is clear. Okay, so I'm going to count down from my 4th rib up here underneath the leg. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to make myself a little notch, right? That'll help me to know where I'm coming. Okay. Then I'm going to go down 2 more. Got some of that breastplate is getting in the way. There we go. Okay, make myself a notch. And now I'm just going to separate between once I get that handsaw in there, it works a little better. Okay, so now we see that my blade bone is right up in here, and I've missed it completely. Okay, I need to do the same on the other side, and I'm going to flip him and turn him. Oops, he's trying to run away. So again, I'm just going to start at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make my notch so I know where I'm working. 6. Follow that back. Give myself a starting point. Getting right through there, right? Whoever said women didn't know how to use tools? Now, once I've gotten through that spine a little bit, right? Turn him over so that I can control what I'm doing. I don't want him flopping around because he flops just right and I could end up cutting myself, right? So now I'm going to separate my loin from my fresh ham. And I'm just going to make myself a little reference cut to know where I'm working from. Come right in. And in case you'd like to know, this handsaw did come from Home Depot. It went through the dishwasher and then a hand wash and sanitize to make sure that it's food safe. And because of that, this handsaw will never be used for construction. will only be for food. Right. Okay, so now we have our double-sided fresh ham right here that I could simply split. We don't really need to trim any fat. It's already been done for us. And we can put this into a lovely brine and then coat it in salt and sugar and cure it in the refrigerator for about a week or so. Rinse it really, really, really well. And then if we'd like to, we could put it back in the fridge uncovered overnight to create what's called a pellicle. A pellicle is when the meat is a little bit sticky, right? It's a little bit sticky and tacky. We put that in the smoker, and that pellicle will help to attract that smoke and hold it onto the meat while it flavors our ham. Again, we're going to take our shoulder and our Boston butt. I'm going to set that aside. And now we're going to work with this little guy. Well, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these tenderloins off. I'm going to separate this, and we're going to play with it. But what I want to do is get my tenderloins in their vacuum seal bag and get them in that sous vide. So all I need to do is separate it. It's just thin little cuts. Pull with my fingers and bring that out from the underside of the ribs. Oh, we've got a little bit of trim that off. Okay. All I'm doing is I'm following the bones. I don't need to do anything too special, except just follow these bones down. And then the last bit of it, it just pulls right off. And again, we're going to do that on this side, following our bones. They have a little bit of a dip, but we're just going to take the tip of our blade and follow up underneath. So I'm going to take these two tenderloins and hand them to my assistant, who knows exactly what to do next. Okay, so now what we have here would traditionally be our loin and our belly. When we make our cut here, we are going to create what you would typically see called short ribs. So at this point, I'm going to come back on the other side. He's not cooperating as much as I'd like him to. Okay. Here we go. So these are basically short ribs. Our best way to cook these would be to steam them for a little while, right? And then smoke them or grill them, which would be kind of a combination cooking method. We want the steam to break down the collagen, especially on the underside, and then our dry cooking method to add flavor and Maillard reaction. We've got another side over here. Get our back side. Finding that these he wants to hold on to his ribs, right? Like I already said, small hands and wrists make hand saws a little bit more difficult, but that's okay. We'll get through it. And again, a little combination cooking method, and we have the best short ribs ever. They also do really well with braising. Oh, My husband did that this last week. I'm still eating off of that out of that pot. Right now, if I were in a larger butcher shop or warehouse processing plant, my cut would come directly down the spine, right? As I'm doing this by hand, that would be extremely difficult. So what I'm actually going to do is come in to the side of the spine, which means if I'm not careful, I will lose some back strap and some of the lovely meat that I don't want to lose. So now that I've cut down to my bones, I'm just making myself this nice little pathway to go. And it's just going to be through each rib. It's going to take a little bit of time and pressure to get through there, but it's worth it. Well, maybe I should have bought a little bit longer of a handsaw. Next time I will. That's okay. It happens. Had I been able to bring the pig into Home Depot, we wouldn't have this issue. Come down on this side. Well, now I'm feeling like this is not going to work out in the center because of this length of my handsaw. Oh, wait, maybe I've got this. What's that saying some people use? Rethink, adapt, keep going. Something close to that. That's a good philosophy to have. One way or another, you can always find a way. We've still got one bone holding on there, giving us trouble. Alright. Okay. So we've got our lovely bone-in loin. Okay. This muscle right up in here is one of my favorites. It's almost as tender as the tenderloin. One thing to remember about all four-legged animals that we use for our proteins is that the upper area of the back, that center area of the back, is always going to be fairly tender. It's going to have a nice intramuscular structure, and it's going to have a lot less collagen that needs to be broken down to create flavor. Now we can keep this bone in and make chops. It's our classic pork chop area. We can bone it out and create a roast by rolling and tying our resulting protein muscles, and using our tying method, the use of that is to help our meat cook nice and even. Okay? So if we just threw this little guy on a pan and popped him in the oven to roast, what would happen is our thin section would become very, very overcooked, dry, and gnarly, really, right? But if I roll this, I can either roll this and tie it, or I can just trim that section off. And one lovely piglet loin. Okay? So we're going to set these aside. And all of the trimmings can be kept and ground and seasoned to create our sausage. When we make our sausage, we can either make sausage that can be cooked, or we can cure it and reduce all of our moisture in our meat to make it edible without actually cooking it. Okay? So really all we've got left, is this guy, right? I know. This is going to be fun. Look at this guy. All right, so like I said before, our shoulder is going to be the bottom of the leg and this breast area. All right? So out of this breast area, you can actually get some pretty nice little spare ribs as well as what you got in the belly section. Right? Beep. See if I can't open him up a bit. Oh, we still have some trachea. Huh. That is the bottom section of the trachea. And I think our best bet is to go ahead and split this and then work with it afterwards. Came in right beside it. Perfect. Basically, I want to get all the way down to my ribs so that it's a lot easier to work with. Okay. Fun fact, when people see butchery being done and they see sections of some blood, you know, especially pigs have the saying, using everything from tail to oink. Well, if you save that blood, back in the day, blood was used as a thickening agent in sauces and a flavorant in soups. We've gotten out of that habit over the years, but we do still use blood in some applications. In the UK, oops, my angle was off. In the UK, blood sausage is very, very popular. Blood is actively used in the mixture. It creates a very dark color, almost black. And in fact, I have seen it labeled black sausage in some stores, which I think, to me, made me laugh. I felt like it seemed more of a trying not to say blood than anything. There's a lot of fear in today's society when it comes to blood in food. And it's not uncalled for when you consider infectious diseases. However, it's still a great addition to your culinary repertoire. Okay. So now that I have that separated, I've got a little bit of ribs, just those few that I kept, right? And I'm having a hard time finding my scapula. His scapula should be right here. No, there it went. All right. My scapula is right up here. You can see it in the tension of the muscles, right? So if I come in here, I should be able to get that out without losing much meat. Right. That's going to come right down here to connect to the back side. Sometimes it takes a little bit of brute force to find where I need to go. Basically what I just did was to disconnect that shoulder so that I can get in between the connecting bones. Right? So we still have these ribs and our front leg still connected, right? If I'd like to, I can take that off. Because the legs have a lot of cartilage to connect many muscle groups, right? You're always going to want to use some moist heat cooking methods when dealing with the leg. This piece could actually be treated a lot like our fresh ham from the rear end of our animal, or I can fabricate all of these muscle groups off and use it for stew meat or to grind it for pork burgers, right? So we just have a nice lovely little leg. This piece is fairly thin. It does still have a lot of connections because of the leg that was connected to it. So we're going to want to use a moist heat cooking method here as well. And we're just trimming up some unsightlies. And it happens, especially in wild animals. Ah, that's what we've got. This little piece would be an excellent piece to treat like a flank for some fajitas, right? Yumminess. All right. These I could also do Chinese lacquered ribs, right? Steam these and then make a lovely lacquer and just put them in a smoker and continuously baste them with a lacquer until they get this lovely sweet shell, right? Sweet and spicy all at once. And in here on my scapula, you'll find that, funny enough, there is a lovely little muscle in the scapula of animals that behaves a lot more like a sirloin steak than like a part of a shoulder. So one thing to remember is that our scapula is, while it looks very flat, actually has a fin on the bottom side, right? And the fin kind of hangs out and tilts, and right in that spot is a lovely little muscle that does hardly anything at all and can be grilled up and enjoyed just like a sirloin, right? If this were cattle, it'd be a much larger muscle, of course, right? All right. So in closing, I want to thank you for your time and curiosity. I have enjoyed sharing some of my knowledge with you, and I hope you found this demonstration informative and interesting and useful. And do we have any questions?